There's something in the air that can't be explained in words, a feeling that doesn't come from newspaper headlines or expert forecasts. It's deeper, quieter, like a whisper that pierces the souls of those who pray and listen. In 2025, millions of people around the world feel that something is about to begin. And this isn't a simple prediction. We're talking about a prophetic time that could mark the beginning of the fulfillment of the secrets of Medjugorje, those revelations that the Virgin Mary gave to 6 visionaries and that to this day remain sealed by heaven. Medjugorje is not just any apparition. Since 1981, the Mother of God has spoken to the entire world from that small town in Bosnia-Herzegovina. And unlike other apparitions like Fatima or La Salette, here the messages have not ceased. They remain alive, monthly, constant. Many no longer see it as a future warning, but as an announcement unfolding in the present. Will 2025 be the year in which the first secret begins to be fulfilled? What if the countdown were already underway without us realizing it? The Virgin made it clear from the beginning that these secrets would be revealed in due time through a priest 3 days before the first one occurs. But that moment will not be announced by the media. It will not come with applause or lights. It will be silent, perhaps even ignored by unbelievers. However, for those who have followed the messages with an awakened heart, the time of preparation has been long and patient, and now there are signs everywhere that this cycle is coming to an end. Mirjana, one of the leading visionaries of Medjugorje, was given the mission to reveal the secrets. She has spoken openly about the weight she feels in having this knowledge. Over the years, she has described how the content of the first secret is not yet a punishment, but a powerful call to conversion. Something that will change our perspective on the world, something we can no longer ignore. And although no official date has yet been announced, many spiritual observers believe the current signs are aligned with what Our Lady announced. A period of confusion, loss of faith, wars, natural disasters, and a humanity that seems to have forgotten its soul. All of this, combined with extraordinary astronomical events, such as recent eclipses, planetary alignments, and unexplained earthquakes, has set off spiritual alarm bells for millions. 2025 is not just another year on the calendar. It is the Jubilee year designated by the Church, but it has also become for many a pivotal year between what was past and what is to come. Marian prophecies do not speak of exact dates, but rather of seasons of the soul, of times of grace that are coming to an end. And the echo that resonates today among those who believe is that time is shortening, that what was foretold will soon begin. One of the keys that has drawn the most attention is that the Virgin always asked for preparation. She didn't ask for fear. She didn't demand that we decipher the secrets before our time. What she repeated like a patient mother was, pray, fast, convert. Because when the first secret is fulfilled, it will be too late to start from scratch. The clock will not stop. Humanity will witness something it will never forget. And this is where true urgency arises, not out of fear, but out of mercy. Because if the first secret of Medjugorje marks the beginning of a global transformation, where will you and I be when that happens? Will the warning find us with our hearts ready or hardened by habit? It's not just about being informed, it's about being prepared, about opening our eyes before heaven does it for us. Some say the secrets of Medjugorje won't happen in our generation. Others claim it's a matter of weeks or months. But the truth is that there have never been so many global coincidences as now. Violence has replaced peace. Confusion reigns even within the Church. Families are falling apart, and modern ideologies seek to replace God. Isn't this perhaps the perfect scenario for divine intervention? This first secret will be the definitive wake-up call. And the most disturbing thing is that it could already be activated in the spiritual world, like a domino that has already fallen in the invisible, the impact of which we will only see when the effect reaches our reality. Medjugorje 2025 could be the gateway to a completely different decade, one where faith will no longer be optional, but a matter of spiritual life or death. Many already feel it, they dream it, they sense it. Something is approaching. Not like a violent lightning bolt, but like a prophetic whisper that intensifies. This is not a call to speculate, but to discern. Because when the secret begins, there will be no turning back. And those who have listened will be a light to those who still sleep. Comment below, I'm waiting for the warning, if you too feel like time is running out. Share this message with 3 people who need to wake up before it's too late. And if you think this is just the beginning, get ready, because in the next episode, we'll talk about something even deeper. A whisper in the soul. What the seers haven't been able to keep silent. See you there. And while the world is just beginning to suspect that something is approaching, there are those who have known for more than 4 decades. They didn't see it in collective visions or conspiracy theories. They lived it. They received it directly from the Virgin Mary. We are talking about the visionaries of Medjugorje, those young people who, in 1981, were chosen to bear a mission as extraordinary as it was painful, to guard the Marian secrets until heaven decides to reveal them. If in the first topic we felt the beginning of an invisible countdown, now we enter the very heart of those who carry that silent clock beating within. Because beyond the outward signs, there is a mystery that has grown within these visionaries with each apparition, with each message received. And it is there, deep within the soul, where the most real battle is fought, that of keeping secret what could change the course of humanity. Of all of them, Mirjana Dragicevic Soldo has been the most closely linked to the revelation of secrets. Chosen by the Virgin to make known to the world the events to come, she has spoken on several occasions of the burden of knowing what is to come and not being able to openly warn about it. Her gaze, her tears in some public appearances, and the trembling in her voice when she refers to the future are not performances or dramatics. They are the reflection of a spiritual burden that only one who has been touched by heaven can understand. In her words, the first secret will be something that will make the world stop for a moment. It won't be a punishment, but rather a strong wake-up call, a kind of spiritual shock that will shake consciences. Mirjana has said that many people will change after seeing it, and others will want to, but it will be too late, not because there isn't another opportunity, but because the impact of the revealed secret will mark an invisible line between before and after. Nothing will ever be the same again. But there is something even more disturbing. The visionaries have not remained silent of their own free will. They are not playing for spiritual privileges. They are obeying a heavenly mandate. The Virgin asked them, with loving firmness, to keep these secrets until the appointed time. And it is in this obedience that the true greatness of their mission is revealed. To bear the burden of knowledge without the relief of relief. To carry a truth that cannot be spoken, but that beats louder within them every day. The most profound thing about this story is that it's not a mystical film. These are real people, visionaries who have grown up, aged, started families, and who continue to affirm with unwavering conviction that they continue to see Our Lady, that the messages continue, that heaven's plan is not over, and every word they share carries a trace of urgency, as if they know the clock is no longer ticking. There are moments recorded on video where Mirjana can be seen bursting into tears after an apparition. Other visionaries, like Ivanka and Vika, have described the pain of not being able to share what they saw. Some call it a prophetic weight, but it's not a crushing weight. It's a fire that burns without consuming. Our Lady didn't show them the secrets to provoke fear, but rather so that they would prepare themselves and others when the moment came. And that moment is closer than many believe, because the visionaries have repeatedly said that the secrets will begin to be revealed when the world is most in need of conversion. And isn't it now, more than ever, when humanity has distanced itself from God? Isn't this time, with senseless wars, division in the church, the destruction of innocence and boundless pride, the exact moment they described in the 1980s? The secrets are not stories. They are not metaphors. They are real events, sealed in time and in the souls of the visionaries. And although they cannot share the specific content, many of them have hinted at their gravity, not in technical words, but in gestures, in prolonged silences, in pleas for intense prayer. They have asked us to prepare ourselves, that we not wait for the announcement to begin our conversion. And this is where the true urgency arises. Because if the visionaries haven't been able to silence that whisper in the soul, it's because that whisper is already transforming into an echo that will soon become a voice that will not come from their mouths, but from heaven itself. And when that voice speaks, everything else will fall silent. Write in the comments, Virgin Mary, open my heart to your calls. If you also feel that these secrets are not a threat, but rather a last chance to return to God. Share this message with 3 people who are still spiritually asleep. Perhaps through you, they will awaken before the secret becomes visible. But this is just the beginning of the mystery, because in the next episode, we will enter one of the most anticipated topics, the mystery of the first secret, signs on earth, not in heaven. What's coming won't fall from the sky, but will emerge on our own soil, and you need to know why. Will you join us? What is coming will not be announced by thunder, lightning, or shooting stars. Fire will not fall from heaven, nor will the heavens open as in the Old Testament stories. What is coming will manifest itself on earth. In the dust we walk on, in the structures we have built with pride, in the human systems we believe to be unbreakable. The first secret of Medjugorje has its epicenter not in the universe, but in the heart of the world. The earth, with its wounds and its pride, will be the initial stage of God's great call. The visionaries have been cautious. The Virgin Mary instructed them clearly not to reveal the secrets until the precise moment. However, there are details that, over time, have come to light. One of the most striking is that the first secret will be an event that will take place in a specific place, a visible, tangible, physical occurrence. It is not a mystical vision or a spiritual symbol. It will be real, something that will happen before our eyes, something that will disrupt the routine of those who live without faith. Mirjana, the visionary charged with revealing it, has declared that this event will not be a punishment, but will provoke a worldwide shudder. Not because of its violence, but because of its ability to shatter indifference. The secret does not seek destruction, but rather awakening. It will not come to annihilate, but to warn. And that warning will be so clear, so evident, that no one will be able to say they weren't warned. It will be the first touch of heaven upon earth, a divine intervention that will leave its mark on history. And the most disturbing thing is that this event will not be immediate. It will not be a lightning bolt that ends in seconds. It will be progressive, like a wound that slowly opens to reveal what was hidden. Some believe it will be a geological disturbance, others a social event of great impact, and still others speak of a revealed truth that exposes the corruption that has stained the soul of the world. We don't know its nature with certainty, but we do know its purpose, to call for conversion. Because the first secret comes neither to satisfy the curiosity of believers nor to punish unbelievers. It comes like the first chime of the prophetic clock, the bell that awakens the sleeper, the crack that appears in the wall before it collapses. And it will be that crack that will cause many to look up for the first time in years, not because they are looking for a miracle, but because they will know, deep within their souls, that something has begun. There are witnesses who claim to have heard certain veiled phrases from the lips of the visionaries. It will be something that will change the world. It will be a sign that no one will be able to deny. It will be a test of the faith of many. These words are not meant to alarm, but to prepare, because what will happen on earth will directly touch our collective conscience. It will not be necessary to look to the sky to understand that heaven has intervened. And here comes a crucial aspect, the location of the event. Although it has not been officially revealed, many believe the first secret will take place in Medjugorje itself. Others suggest it may happen in a place symbolically charged with sin, division, and the denial of God. The truth is that the location will not matter as much as the impact, because the echo of this event will spread to every corner of the planet. It will need no translation or explanation. It will be obvious. Those who have studied Marian prophecies agree that the first secret will mark a dividing line, not so much for its physical content, but for its spiritual effect. It will be the moment when many will recognize for the first time that the Virgin Mary did not speak in metaphors, that her calls were real, that the time for playing with faith is over, and then the true drama of the human soul will begin, choosing between surrendering to God or clinging to one's own ruin. This event, announced 3 days in advance by a priest appointed by Mirjana herself, will also be a test of obedience and discernment. How many will believe this announcement? How many will think it is a deception, an exaggeration, a fabrication? And yet, 3 days later, when what was announced happens exactly as it was said, the world will know that the cycle has begun, that the time of secrets is no longer a distant mystery, but an embodied reality. And while many will seek answers, others will seek consolation, because the first secret will remove deep layers of the soul. It will make visible the wounds we carry within, and it will be there that grace can act with greater power. Because the Virgin does not want this time to destroy us, but to purify us. She does not want us to fear, but to awaken. And therefore, the first secret is not an end, but a beginning that will demand attention, humility, and openness. Because whoever ignores it will miss the opportunity to understand what follows. Because whoever doesn't see God's hand in what happens on earth will also fail to recognize his voice in the warnings to come. And then, when the world is barely assimilating the impact of this first visible sign, the door will open to the second. And there, history will not only change on the outside, it will change on the inside. Because what comes next will not be a physical event, but a direct intervention in the consciousness of every human being. And if you still don't know what it's all about, you need to stay with us. Because what many have called the warning could be closer than you imagine, and its roots may be planted in the second secret of Medjugorje. In the next episode, we will explore the connection between Medjugorje and another Marian apparition that has marked entire generations, Garabandal, an apparition that also spoke of a worldwide warning, and it could hold the key to understanding what comes after the first secret. When the first secret is fulfilled, the world will change, but that change will not come without warning. In one of the most striking elements of the Medjugorje prophecies, the Virgin Mary promised that the first secret would be announced publicly 3 days in advance. 3 days, no more, no less. That brief time frame was not chosen at random. It is the exact interval that will allow some to prepare and others to resist. May the attentive awaken and the indifferent doubt. The priest chosen to make this announcement has already been designated by the visionary Mirjana herself, following a direct instruction from Our Lady. She has not revealed his identity publicly, but has stated that this priest knows his mission and is waiting for the right moment. His role will be key because the announcement will not be given through official church channels or mass media. It will be a solitary, almost silent act, but with a spiritual weight that will resonate like thunder in the souls of those who can still hear. Imagining that moment is shocking, a simple declaration seemingly, but with the power to shake history. 3 days before the first secret is revealed on earth, the announcement will resonate, not in parliaments or on social media, but in the hearts of those who have followed Our Lady's calls for years. It will be the fulfillment of a promise, the confirmation that everything said in Medjugorje was not in vain, and the preparation for something that will no longer be avoidable. Where will that announcement be heard? No one knows for sure. It could be in Medjugorje, in a church, in an interview, or even digitally, but the medium will be less important than the message, because what's essential will not be how it's said, but what it's said and what reaction it provokes. The word that comes from that priest's mouth carries the weight of a revelation sealed by heaven, and those who hear it will not be able to remain indifferent. Many wonder why the Virgin Mary chose exactly 3 days. Why not a week, a month, or simply let the secret unfold without warning? The answer lies at the heart of Marian Christ's message, mercy. 3 days is just enough time for the soul to decide, for the heart to incline, for the spirit to react. It is the last margin, the final breath before fulfillment, and it is also a test of faith, of obedience, of discernment. Because when this announcement is made, there will be those who will immediately reject it. They will say it's a fabrication, a theatrical performance, a manipulation. Others will consider it an exaggeration, a failed prophecy. But there will be those moved by grace who will deeply understand that the hour has arrived, that the time for waiting is over. And those 3 days will be lived intensely: prayer, silence, reconciliation, vigilance. For some, these will be the 3 most important days of their lives. Not because they can change the course of the event, for what was foretold will come true anyway, but because they can change the course of their soul. Because what is coming will not destroy the body, but will touch the conscience. And being prepared will make all the difference between understanding and resisting, between waking up or falling. There is something deeply symbolic in this time frame. Jesus spent 3 days in the tomb before the resurrection. Jonah spent 3 days in the belly of the fish. The people of Israel walked for 3 days toward the encounter with the mountain where God would manifest himself. In the Bible, 3 days have always meant preparation for the sacred. In Medjugorje, that same spiritual logic is repeated. The secret will not fall like an unexpected lightning bolt. It will be preceded by an announcement, and that announcement will be the first act of divine mercy. But it will also be the beginning of a division. Because after the announcement, there will be those who run toward God and those who turn further away. There will be hearts that soften and others that harden. The time of secrecy will not only be an external manifestation, but an internal battle, and the 3-day announcement will mark the beginning of that battle in millions of souls. Mirjana has been clear on several occasions. The priest who will make the announcement will do so in obedience and with courage. There will be no turning back. He will not be able to refuse or postpone it. When he receives the signal, he will speak, and the world will listen, not with the ears of the body, but with the ears of the soul. And that inner echo will be impossible to silence. Are you prepared for that moment? Have you considered how you would react if you heard that announcement today? Not from a distant pulpit, but straight to your heart. Because if there's anything special about this warning, it's that even though it's spoken publicly, it will only be understood by those whose spirit is awake. And while many await heavenly signs, they will ignore the greatest of all, the warning before the fulfillment. A prophetic announcement that will go viral among believers, but will be ignored by those who have already closed their souls. And it will be then that the first secret will be fulfilled just as promised. Not to condemn, but to purify. But there's something else, something that connects what was said in Medjugorje with another Marian apparition that shook thousands in Spain, Garabandal. Because there, too, a worldwide warning was spoken of a time when every soul would see its inner self as never before. Could this second secret be the fulfillment of what was prophesied in Garabandal? In the next episode, we will explore this profound connection. Because understanding what happened in Garabandal could be the key to understanding the second secret of Medjugorje and the warning that will forever change the history of humanity. When we speak of the second secret of Medjugorje, the air becomes denser. If the first will be a visible event on Earth that will mark a before and after, the second seems to point not outward, but inward. And it is in this transition, from the exterior to the interior, from the event to the soul, that an inevitable question arises, one that thousands of faithful have asked in recent years. Is the second secret linked to the warning prophesied in Garabandal? To understand the depth of this possibility, we must go back for a moment to 1961. In a small town in northern Spain called San Sebastián de Garabandal, 4 girls began receiving apparitions of the Virgin Mary and the Archangel Saint Michael. Over the course of 4 years, the Virgin delivered messages that shook the Catholic world, including one in particular that still resonates like a warning bell suspended in time. There will come a warning, a miracle, and a punishment. The first, the warning, would be a direct intervention of God in the conscience of every human being. According to the visionaries of Garabandal, this warning will not be a physical event, but a universal inner experience. A moment in which every man, woman, and child will see their soul as God sees it. A revelation of global consciousness, simultaneous, profound, and personal. Regardless of religion, age, or culture, it will be a moment of enlightenment, where every human being will feel in their spirit the weight of their sins, their unhealed wounds, their hidden choices. A kind of judgment without a sentence, offered as a last chance for conversion. And now, let's return to Medjugorje. Although the visionaries have carefully guarded the content of the second secret, some have hinted that it is an event of great spiritual impact, not necessarily material. Mirjana has said on more than one occasion that this second event will provoke a profound internal change in many people. Isn't this an almost exact description of the warning announced at Garabandal? The similarity between the two messages cannot be ignored. At Garabandal, it was announced that the warning would occur before a visible miracle, and that its purpose was to purify the soul of the world. At Medjugorje, 10 secrets are spoken of, beginning with a visible event, the first, and then with successive events that will transform humanity from its foundations. The parallel is undeniable. And although the precise timing has not been revealed, the spiritual logic behind both apparitions seems to be part of the same heavenly plan. Could it be then that the second secret of Medjugorje is the warning of Garabandal? If this is so, we would be facing one of the most transcendental revelations in history, because we are not talking about an external sign, but an internal earthquake, of a day when the entire planet will stop, not because something falls from the sky, but because each soul will be brought before the mirror of its own eternity. Imagine for a moment what that would mean. People all over the world, in different time zones, interrupted in the middle of their activities, an instant in which time stops internally. An illumination so powerful that even those most distant from God will know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that what they are experiencing is not psychological or emotional, it is supernatural. They won't be able to explain it, but they will know it comes from above. And in that instant, many will cry out in repentance, others in despair. It won't be a punishment, it won't be a miracle, it will be an act of radical love, a desperate call from heaven to save those who can still be saved. One last bell before the door closes, and that's why its proximity should not provoke fear, but rather spiritual vigilance. Because if the second secret is truly the warning, then what is coming is not the end, but the threshold of a decision. There is something else that unites Garabandal and Medjugorje. Both apparitions emphasize the urgent need for conversion, for praying the rosary, for personal sacrifice, for the Eucharist. Both coincided in announcing a time of confusion in the church and in the world. Both indicated that before the chastisement, an extraordinary opportunity for repentance would come, and both were, and continue to be, resisted by many ecclesial sectors that do not understand their prophetic dimension. The warning will not be a dogma or an imposition. It will be an experience, a wound opened by love, a divine pause for the soul to choose, and if it is part of the secrets of Medjugorje, then it is no longer a mystical hypothesis, but a prophetic certainty that is approaching. Perhaps that's why so many feel a different vibration in 2025, not just because of the wars, the cosmic signs, or the moral crisis, but because of something more subtle, deeper, more spiritual. A murmur of eternity that permeates hearts, dreams, intuitions. An echo that comes from the past, from Garabandal, and projects itself into the present, in Medjugorje, to reveal itself in the future that already breathes down our necks. And if all of this is truly connected, then what is coming will not simply be another stage in history. It will be the moment when history ceases to be told by man and begins to be written, once again, by the hand of God. But there's another reason why many believe we're near. And it doesn't just have to do with prophecies, but with the visible signs of the world, because 2025 has begun to show signs that fit eerily with what was announced. What is happening today that could confirm that the time of secrets has already begun? When prophecies are present in the soul, they are not perceived as theories. They are felt, they are breathed, they are lived in the silence of conscience. And for many believers, 2025 has not arrived as just another year. From the very first days, there is something in the air that vibrates differently. It is not paranoia or religious fear, it is discernment. It is as if the heavens had lowered their magnifying glass upon this year and were beginning to clearly signal that the time of secrets could be beginning. But what is so special about this year? Why do so many hearts feel like we have entered a prophetic countdown? To understand, it's enough to look closely. The world is going through a storm that is not only political, economic, or climatic. It is a spiritual storm. A darkness that advances silently, disguised as normality, but that extinguishes the light of faith with every step. And it is precisely in this context that the messages of Medjugorje take on a more urgent dimension. One of the first signs that set off alarm bells was the increase in exceptional astronomical phenomena. Total eclipses of the sun and moon at key times, unusual planetary alignments, the northern lights in regions where they had never been seen before, and changes in the Earth's magnetic behavior. All of this has been recorded not only by alternative means, but also by scientific agencies. But what for science are celestial curiosities? For the vigilant soul are winks from heaven, silent warnings, divine whispers reminiscent of the signs of the apocalypse. Added to this are the massive earthquakes that have shaken entire nations. In the first months of the year, several high-intensity tremors struck regions considered stable. The tectonic plates seemed to shift as if the Earth were restless, as if something within the planet were beginning to manifest an invisible pressure. In Our Lady's messages, both in Medjugorje and in other apparitions, we are warned that all of creation groans and reacts when sin reaches its limit. And it's hard not to see that connection today. But the most alarming thing is not in heaven or on earth, but in the human spirit. Moral confusion has reached historic levels. Ideologies that deny human nature, laws that normalize sin as a virtue, systematic attacks on the innocence of children, and a growing loss of the sense of right and wrong. It's no longer a question of individual errors, but of socially legitimized structures of sin. It's as if the world has reversed its values, and what is good is called intolerance, while what is destructive is celebrated as freedom. The Church herself is going through one of the most painful moments in her history, not because of external persecution, but because of internal division, contradictory theologies, inexplicable silence in the face of heresies, and an apparent loss of doctrinal clarity that confuses even the most steadfast faithful. In the Medjugorje messages, Our Lady has pleaded for the Church, asking for prayer for priests, bishops, and pastors. Not because the Church will fall, but because it must undergo a profound purification before its renewal. And as if all this weren't enough, the soul of modern man seems to have lost its capacity for silence. In a world of constant stimuli, social media, viral scandals, and soulless news, hardly anyone stops to listen to God anymore. Interiority has been suffocated by artificial urgency, and in this desert of noise, the Virgin's messages ring like a distant bell, but a bell that this year many are beginning to hear louder than ever. Could 2025 mark the turning point? Will this be the year in which God's mercy decides to begin revealing the secrets? No one can say for sure, but the coincidences are too many. A Jubilee year, declared by the Church as a time of grace and forgiveness. War conflicts that recall the warnings given at Fatima. Extreme weather events that seem a prelude to a deeper upheaval. Prophetic movements within the people of God that speak with an urgency unknown in previous years. And while all this is happening, Our Lady's monthly messages in Medjugorje have not ceased. They continue to call for prayer, fasting, and conversion. But there is also a change in tone. Language is more direct, clearer, and more urgent, as if Heavenly Mother knows that the time of preparation is coming to an end, and that now her children must make firm decisions without further delay. Heaven doesn't give dates, it doesn't reveal calendars, but it does prepare the souls of the faithful. And that is what is happening in 2025. A silent but powerful preparation, a spiritual tension that many feel even without knowing why. And it is in that tension that Jesus' words are fulfilled. When you see these things beginning to happen, lift up your heads, because your redemption is drawing near. And you? Have you felt this restlessness in your heart? Have you noticed how the world is speeding up, but your soul seems to scream to stop? Maybe it's not a coincidence. Maybe it's the clearest sign of all. Maybe heaven is telling you that the time has come, but there's something else. A phrase repeated many times in the Medjugorje messages that resonates with renewed force today. What began in Fatima will end in Medjugorje. What does this really mean? How are the two apparitions connected? Are we experiencing the final outcome of a prophecy that began more than a century ago? For more than a century, the apparitions of the Virgin Mary have woven an invisible thread, uniting times, places, and generations. Many try to separate Marian revelations as isolated events, but those who have paid attention with an open heart know there is no contradiction between them. There is continuity, a history written from heaven. And in the midst of that history, a phrase uttered repeatedly by visionaries and scholars resonates with ever-increasing force. What began in Fatima will end in Medjugorje. To understand this statement, we must go back to 1917. In a hidden corner of Portugal, 3 shepherd children witnessed a series of apparitions that would change the history of modern Catholicism. At Fatima, Our Lady spoke clearly about the dangers threatening the world: wars, persecutions, ideological errors that would spread across the planet. But she also promised that in the end, her Immaculate Heart would triumph. That promise wasn't poetic, it was prophetic, and it is directly linked to what is happening in Medjugorje today. The connection is not merely symbolic, it is doctrinal, spiritual, and chronological. At Fatima, Our Lady revealed 3 secrets that profoundly marked the 20th century. The first, a vision of hell. The second, the need to consecrate Russia. The third, a mysterious image of a bishop dressed in white, walking among ruins and falling under bullets. Many believe the latter was fulfilled with the assassination attempt on John Paul II's life. But others are convinced that the message is not completely closed, that Fatima left a door open, a prophecy in suspense. And it is precisely that door that Medjugorje comes to close. In Medjugorje, Our Lady does not speak in a coded language as she did at Fatima. Here, her messages are maternal, insistent, simple, yet profound. There are no apocalyptic visions, but rather urgent calls to conversion, to peace, to the return of the heart to God. And yet, beneath that sweetness, there is an ever-increasing spiritual urgency, as if time were running out, as if the plan begun at Fatima were reaching its culmination. Scholars of Marian prophecies agree that there is a parallel between the two apparitions. Both begin with humble children, both unfold in the midst of global crises, both warn of sin, apostasy, spiritual communism, and the need for reparation. And both include secrets that are progressively revealed, with an underlying message that calls humanity to choose either God or self-destruction. But there is something more. In Medjugorje, Our Lady has insisted that this is her last great apparition on earth. Not in the sense that she will never manifest herself again, but in the sense that this cycle of messages constitutes the final stage of a heavenly plan. What was begun at Fatima, the revelation of the dangers of the modern soul, is now completed with Medjugorje, the revelation of the remedies: prayer, fasting, the Eucharist, the Rosary, confession, and above all, the return to the love of God. The parallel is also seen in the world's reaction. Fatima was ignored for decades, then partially accepted, and only with the passage of time was its prophetic depth recognized. Medjugorje is undergoing a similar process. Despite millions of conversions, inexplicable miracles, and vocations born from its messages, there are still those who dismiss it today. But as was the case with Fatima, time will be its best witness. The phrase, "What began in Fatima will end in Medjugorje," does not imply a catastrophic ending. It implies a fulfillment, a spiritual consummation. Because the Immaculate Heart of Mary did not come merely to warn, she came to triumph. And that triumph will not be political or military, but in the souls of her children. But that triumph can only come after purification, after the call, after the secrets. And this is where 2025 takes on an even deeper meaning. If Fatima marked the beginning of the prophetic century with its secrets, and Medjugorje continues that line with its warnings, this year may represent the crossing between the time of divine patience and the time of fulfillment. For everything announced at Fatima, the loss of faith, apostasy, wars, the rejection of God, is already here. And everything promised at Medjugorje, revelation, awakening, the return of the heart to God, may begin to visibly manifest itself. And it's not just a spiritual intuition, it's a recognition of the heavenly pattern. God speaks in cycles, in stages, in processes that seem slow, but when they reach their fullness, they cannot be stopped. And if Our Lady said that what began in Fatima would end in Medjugorje, she didn't say it to provoke fear. She said it to prepare, because what is coming is not punishment, but fulfillment. Those who understand this connection no longer see the apparitions as separate events. They see them as chapters in a single story, a story of love struggling with disbelief, a story of a mother who never tires of warning her children before it's too late, and one that now, more than ever, needs to be heard with a naked soul. But the Virgin didn't come just to talk about secrets and the end. She came to call her children to fight, not with weapons, but with prayer, not with ideologies, but with faith. And that call has a clear focus: inner preparation, authentic conversion, a change of life, because the time for decisions has arrived. And the soul that doesn't prepare will be caught by surprise. And this is where the message takes a decisive turn, because it's not enough to know what's coming. Our Lady has been clear from the beginning. We must prepare. We must respond. We must transform our hearts, because secrets are not a threat. They're an opportunity, a final door before the time of grace closes. And that brings us to an urgent question. How should we live in these times? What does heaven really ask of us? What does it mean to prepare for what's coming? Knowing that something is coming is not enough, nor is understanding the secrets of Medjugorje as prophetic events. What Our Lady has made clear time and again in her messages is that it is not enough to observe the signs. We must respond, act, prepare urgently, but not out of fear, but out of love. Because every secret, every warning, every apparition does not point to an end, but to a new beginning that only those who have converted their hearts can experience. Since the first apparitions in 1981, the Virgin Mary in Medjugorje has not changed her essential message. She has repeated it with infinite patience, with the sweetness of a mother and the firmness of a prophetess. Prayer, fasting, confession, Eucharist, and conversion. These are not simple spiritual counsels. They are tools, shields, open doors to grace. Without them, the soul will not withstand what is coming. With them, it will not only endure, it will be light in the midst of darkness. Prayer is the first pillar, not as an empty routine or a religious obligation, but as a living dialogue with God. Our Lady specifically requested the daily recitation of the Rosary, not once a week, not when one has time, but every day. Because the Rosary is not a mechanical repetition, it is a weapon against evil. Each Hail Mary, recited with faith, pierces the wall of sin and opens the heart to the truth. Prayer transforms, cleanses, and strengthens. And in times of confusion, it is the only sure path to discerning God's will. Fasting has also been a constant request, not as an aesthetic sacrifice or as corporal punishment, but as liberation. The Virgin Mary has asked us to fast with bread and water on Wednesdays and Fridays. Why? Because fasting breaks bonds. It awakens the sleeping soul. It empties the body so the spirit can breathe. In a world obsessed with immediate pleasure, fasting is declaring that we are not slaves to desire. It is regaining mastery over ourselves, and only those who possess themselves can offer themselves to God. Frequent confession is another of the great calls. It's not enough to confess occasionally, nor to justify one's own failings. Our Lady asks for a constant examination of the soul, a regular cleansing of the heart. Because secrets will not first strike the body, but the spirit. And if there are stains, if there are open wounds, if there are hidden sins, the soul will not be able to withstand the impact of the light. Going to confession is not humiliation, it is rebirth. It is saying to God, I don't want to wait for the warning to see my sin. I want to see it now and be free. The Eucharist occupies a central place in the Marian call. In every apparition, Our Lady has pointed out the importance of attending Mass, of receiving communion worthily, of worshipping in silence. Because in a world without direction, Christ alive in the Eucharist is the only unfailing compass. Preparing for the secrets without being in a state of grace is like trying to see in the night without a lamp. The Mass is not just a ritual, it is heaven on earth. And only those who live by that bread can stand firm when all else falls apart. And finally, the call to conversion of heart, not a superficial change, not an external improvement, but a radical transformation. Our Lady has been clear, this is a time of grace, but it will not last forever. The clock is ticking, and when the first secret is revealed, there will be no more time to begin. The time to change is now, not tomorrow, not when things are calmer, not when others believe. Now, because only those who listen today will be able to endure tomorrow. This call is not only individual, it is also collective. Our Lady has asked believers to form prayer groups, to intercede for those who do not believe, to make reparation for those who offend. Because secrets affect not only the personal soul, but also the mystical body of the church and the world. And when one prays, fasts, and offers oneself, one does so not only for oneself, but for millions who still sleep. Therefore, those who have understood the message of Medjugorje don't obsess over dates or theories. They focus on living what Our Lady asks of us. Not because they know exactly when the secrets will begin, but because they know that living as if they were already happening is the only real preparation. Because if the soul is awake, the day doesn't matter, it will be ready, and that is the true victory. Conversion is not a single act, it's a journey, a process, a daily struggle against pride, lukewarmness, selfishness, distraction. And Our Lady doesn't demand perfection, but she does demand sincerity. She wants willing hearts, open wills, souls that say, "Yes, Mother, here I am. Make of me what heaven needs." Because with those hearts, God can change the world. And it's not about living in anguish or constant fear. On the contrary, it's about living with hope, with sober joy, with serene confidence. Because secrets are not the end, but the beginning. And whoever is prepared will experience them not as a catastrophe, but as a necessary purification, like the crucible where the saints of the end times are forged. But that takes courage, the courage to go against the grain, to live differently, to bear the cross of silence, of mockery, of rejection, because many won't understand, many will laugh, many will say we're crazy, but those who listen will know. They will feel deep down that something real is approaching, and they will want to be ready. And then, when the soul is aligned with heaven, secrets will not be a cause for fear, but a mission. Because if anything has become clear in Medjugorje, it is that Our Lady does not seek spectators, but soldiers. She does not seek curious people, but consecrated ones, and now more than ever, she needs her children to take a stand. And so, with hearts burning, we reach the threshold of the moment most awaited by many, the impact of what will come after the secret, because what happens on earth will be only the beginning. Then will come the invisible, the profound, the irreversible. After so much time listening to warnings, praying with faith and preparing in silence, the day will come when one of the secrets is finally revealed and fulfilled. And when that happens, the world will never be the same. Not because the external landscape has changed, but because something within the human soul will have been irreversibly touched. What comes next will not be visible to the naked eye. It will not make headlines. It will not be recorded on cameras, but it will be more real than any earthquake or eclipse. It will be an inner shock, a direct intervention from heaven in the consciousness of every human being. For decades, the apparitions of Medjugorje have prepared believers for this moment, not just with sweet messages or spiritual consolation, but with a firm insistence. A time will come when each person will have to face the truth of their own soul. And that time will not be announced with a thunderous sound. It will begin quietly, but it will be felt across the planet, like a collective awakening, like a light piercing the moral blindness of a sleeping generation. This is not a punishment. It will not be hell falling on earth. It will be something much more intimate and merciful, the opportunity to see ourselves as God sees us, without masks, without excuses, without disguises. Human conscience will be brought to a state of spiritual enlightenment where every act, every omission, every wound inflicted, and every good rejected will be presented before the eyes of the soul, not as an accusation, but as a revelation. This phenomenon has been described by mystics, saints, and visionaries throughout history. But in the context of Medjugorje, it takes on a new eschatological significance. It will not be an experience reserved for a select few. It will be global, simultaneous, unmistakable, and for many, it will be the first time in their lives that they perceive the eternal dimension of their choices. It will be as if time has stopped, as if the soul has been torn from routine and brought face to face with the truth. The impact of this experience will be so profound that some will fall to their knees in tears. Others will remain completely silent, unable to speak for days. There will be instant conversions, unexpected reconciliations. Vocations will be born amidst wonder. But there will also be those who cannot bear the weight of the light, because not everyone will want to change. Not everyone will accept the truth when it is presented to them unfiltered. And here's the great mystery. This enlightenment won't be optional. It won't be a mystical privilege. It will be a universal grace offered as heaven's last attempt to save humanity from the abyss. And although some will try to explain it scientifically or deny it out of fear, deep down they will know that what they experienced didn't come from them. It was a gift, a warning, a distress call from on high. After the fulfillment of the secret, humanity will be divided in two, those who respond and those who reject. There will be no room for lukewarmness. It will no longer be possible to live in ambiguity, because once the soul has been exposed to the truth, it can no longer hide. The heart that has felt the touch of God will have to decide. Either it will surrender to conversion or it will harden its blindness. But even at that moment, mercy will be greater than judgment. Our Lady said in Medjugorje that the purpose of secrets is not to punish, but to save. And so this shaking of conscience will also be an opening of doors. For many who were lost will return. Many who lived as if God did not exist will run into his arms. Many broken hearts will be mended, not out of fear, but out of truth. Those who have responded to the previous call, to prayer, to fasting, to confession, will be instruments of peace during this time. Not as haughty preachers, but as silent beacons. Ordinary men and women who, having prepared their souls, will be able to sustain others in the midst of inner tremors. They will be like spiritual anchors in a society in turmoil. And without knowing it, they will have been formed by the Virgin for this very moment. This awakening will not be the end. It will be the beginning of a new stage, a phase in which good and evil will manifest more clearly. A purification that will pave the way to the fulfillment of the remaining secrets, because after the light will come the test. After the clarity, the decision. After the offered love, the freedom to choose, and not everyone will make it. During this time, many will wonder why they didn't believe before, why they ignored the messages, why they postponed their conversion, and even if guilt tries to paralyze them, Our Lady will continue to reach out to them, because her immaculate heart rejects no one. But this time, the choice will be more urgent. There will no longer be decades to reflect. Time will become brief, compressed, intense. And this is where the role of believers becomes even more crucial. Because after the shaking of conscience, a more visible spiritual battle will come. The forces of evil will not remain still. They will seek to confuse, deceive, and divert. But those who have sincerely awakened will be a light in the midst of darkness. And even if the world doesn't understand them, they will be part of an invisible army that Our Lady has been raising for decades. What will happen after the secret cannot be fully explained, but it can be spiritually anticipated, because the soul that has been touched by the truth is never the same again. And even though the challenges increase, so will grace. Because when heaven intervenes in this way, it does not do so to abandon, but to guide. It does not do so to judge, but to redeem. And now, after so much listening, so much praying, so much waiting, we come to the threshold of the final message. not as closure, but as a final vision, because what is coming is not the end of the world, it is the end of an era, and the beginning of a new time, reserved for those who have believed when all seemed dark. There is no noise, no lightning. No celestial portals are yet open, but there is something in the soul that says it all, a vibration that comes not from fear, but from certainty, as if something in the spirit knows that time is not eternal, that God's patience has a rhythm, that warnings are not eternal, and that the day the secret is revealed might not be as far away as we imagine. It's not about generating panic. It's not about living obsessed with the future. It's about understanding the present with prophetic eyes. Looking around and seeing that everything that was announced has already begun, even if we haven't yet called it by name. The world has changed. The church has changed. People have changed. And while many believe we're still in business as usual, heaven is already unfolding its final strategy. From Fatima to Medjugorje, Our Lady has woven a path of warnings, promises, and calls. Everything has been said, everything has been offered, and now all that remains is for the world to listen or continue sleeping, because the secret will not be revealed through artifice. It will be announced in simplicity, 3 days in advance. And when it comes, it will come. It will not ask permission. It will not respect agendas. It will not wait for everyone to be ready. What if it were tomorrow? What if the priest chosen by the Virgin raised his voice and said that the first secret would be fulfilled in 3 days? Where would you be? What would you do? Who would you run to hug? What sin would you renounce without thinking twice? That scenario, which today seems hypothetical, may not be so for much longer. The signs have intensified. The warnings are no longer merely mystical. They are etched in the headlines, in the earthquakes, in the cries of a humanity crumbling spiritually. And yet, the greatest tragedy is not that the secret arrives, but that it arrives and finds us indifferent. Therefore, this is not just the end of a series of reflections. It is an open door to the true beginning, that of your personal decision. Because beyond the secrets, beyond the miracles or the punishments, what is truly at stake is your soul. And the Virgin, in all her messages, has repeated with unwavering love, "Convert, little children, now while there is still a time of grace." Grace is still available, heaven is still waiting, but not for much longer, because the clock hasn't stopped, because the heart of history keeps beating, and every day that passes is a step closer to the full fulfillment of what was revealed to the seers. They already know it. They already bear it in silence. And when the time comes, the veil will fall. And the world will look around and know. You won't know through logic. You'll know through impact, through presence, through fire in your conscience, through the inner shudder that comes from knowing that God has just spoken and has done so with deeds. And in that moment, every decision made so far will weigh heavily. Every prayer, every rosary, every mass, every renunciation, every silent act of faith will be like an invisible shield, because there will be no time to improvise. There will only be time to respond. And you who have come this far are not reading by chance. You have been called, you have been sought, you have been chosen to know, to understand, to prepare yourself, and to awaken others. Because this series was not written to satisfy curiosity, but to move hearts, to prepare soldiers, to form witnesses. Because when the secrets begin, many will run away in confusion, and then you will have to be the light, a simple light, without spectacle, without superiority, a light that shines only because we have listened, believed, and responded, a light that reminds others that Our Lady has not abandoned the world, that she is still here, that she continues to speak, that she continues to love with the urgency of a mother who can no longer wait, because the true secret isn't just in the events to come, it's in the heart that decides to wait no longer. in the soul that no longer compromises with sin, in the faith that embraces God even when everything else falls apart. That is the greatest secret, that heaven needs you now, not later. And if the first secret were revealed tomorrow, would you be at peace? Would you be ready? The Virgin Mary does not prepare us for fear, but for victory. But that victory requires struggle, spiritual struggle, silent, firm. And now is the time, not tomorrow, not when the announcement comes. Today, here, while there is still grace, heaven has spoken. Now the world must decide. Comment below. I'm ready for the warning if you've already made a decision in your heart. Share this series with those who still need to wake up. And don't stop there. The spiritual battle continues, and you're part of it.